Always working.
We're live. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Adelita Grijalva, and this is our third Plática. So, what we're trying to do every Saturday is really talking about voter outreach and the issues that are getting people motivated either to vote or not vote. What are some of the barriers that people are putting on themselves, or that are real life issues that we have to address? And so, what happened in the primary election here in Pima County and actually across the nation is the Office for County Attorney really turned a lot of voters who had really been disenfranchised before out to vote. We saw the numbers here in Pima County, and Laura Conover, the county attorney's race here in Pima County, really turned a lot of people out. And so I want to thank Laura Conover, our soon to be county attorney, and also Mike Ortiz for joining us. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. And what we're going to be talking about is criminal justice reform and some of the people that we've heard from that really are not interested in voting for whatever reason because they don't think anything's going to change. And so, Mike, I wanted to just turn it over to you really quickly. Tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your background.
Um, so what's up, guys? My name is Mike Ortiz. I've been here in Tucson for over 18 years now, and this is my home. So, when the times got rough here lately, around the pandemic, around all the police brutality and everything, I felt like it got really personal, for me, and it should have felt like that for everyone else. And so I got really driven, and I reached out to Laura Conover because I did my homework, um, and I realized that the presidential election is not really. I mean, it's important, but here at home, it doesn't affect us as much as the local elections. So after doing my research, I was just like everyone else my age. I was just like everyone else where I grew up. Just had no idea, just unaware and like uneducated in these areas as far as what a county attorney does, what a supervisor does, what the legislation does here in Pima County. And all I knew was who's president of the United States. You know what I mean? Um, so for me, I had to do my own research, and that is like the most important thing you could do that I know now. But so for me, my background is just an unaware kid growing up in Tucson who had no idea how important the effects of the local politicians, how important that is. Um, so I reached out. I did my homework on all the candidates for Pima County Attorney because I realized that when the George Floyd incident was going on, I realized that the county attorney held a lot of power in being able to hold those accountable and bring justice to where it should be brought to, and that's to the people. And so that got real personal for me. So I did my homework on all the candidates, and one of them really stuck out to me. It was Laura Conover, and she just felt genuine to me, and it felt like this is a person who spent their whole life, pretty much their whole career, really fighting for what they believed in, and wasn't just another person just in the system, learning from the system and going with the system. This was a person I felt like was speaking for her community and for the people in it. So I reached out personally. And I'm gonna be honest with you, friends of mine, my peers, they told me I was crazy that this woman would never reply to me, reach back to me. I'm just a kid from the community in their eyes. And something in me told me, you know what, it's worth a shot at least because we
Mhm.
were already rolling the ball with the George Floyd, me and Jamar Anthony, um, um, me and Z, like just a whole bunch of people from the community. We started the Enough is Enough organization because enough was enough. and we were very angry, very passionate at the time. So I felt like it's worth a shot, regardless if I got turned down or not. And she was very humble, and she agreed to during a pandemic. She agreed to a one-on-one interview with me, and I recorded it. I still have it. It was very genuine. All her answers were unscripted. I even gave her a chance. I said, "Would you like to know the questions that I'm going to ask you before I ask you?" She said, "No." She said, "I want them raw. I want them just shoot them at me, and I'm going to give you whatever I feel." And that right there earned a lot of my respect. And
So can you tell us a little bit about Enough is Enough? You mentioned some of the other people there,
so
but just so people.
um, we are an organ. I wouldn't even call it like an organization. We're just, the community, the people, the voice. We're here for what's right, justice, right? So we're not trying to tie our names to a certain organization, a certain group of people. We're for It's for all the people. It's for Tucson. It's for Pima. It's for the rest of the nation. Gotta let it grow to that. And
Mhm.
enough is enough is just for to kind of just fray away from those organizations and the radicalism thinking of, well, it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way, it's got to be that way. It's just no. Enough is enough. There needs to be justice for the people, and we need to stand for the people, and that is it. It's not about race.
Okay.
It's not about skin color. It's not about whether you're female or male or your orientation. Nothing matters but justice, but what's right for the people. So that's the organization we started, and it started, with George Floyd, but it also started before that. But George Floyd kind of gave us the platform because
Do it.
not only were we fed up, now everyone was fed up.
Right. Yeah, I think that that was a real critical moment in our nation and has continued to push a lot of issues. I wanted to thank Justin Lloyd for joining us from Coalition for Change. Thank you so much. I know we're all having little technical issues. Everyone's trying to figure it out, and I want to be very appreciative of the time that you took to try to get, get here so we can have this really important conversation. Just for those of us who are joining us late, my name is Adelita Grijalva, and I'm joined by Laura Conover, Mike Ortiz, and Justin Lloyd. Thank you so much for all of you for being here. And Justin, what I mentioned was if I was going to give everyone a little opportunity to introduce themselves. So can you just let everyone know who you are, how you're involved, and why this issue of criminal justice reform is important to you?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, one, thank you for having me, and I really
Thank
do
you.
appreciate every last one of you on the call here. My name is, like I said, Justin Lloyd. I'm actually from Memphis, Tennessee. I moved out to Tucson about 15 years ago. I've done everything under the sun, from leadership management to Walmart to Dun& Bradstreet to Intuit, and I did. It was some time ago. I did some part-time work, and it was with Chiefsville. And I just started working in the field, and I got a chance to meet John's Rothschild, and work with Miss Rahina Romero. And what ends up happening is Arizona Coalition for Change was in Phoenix, Arizona, and that was led by State Representative Reginald Bolden and his wife Simone, and they founded Arizona Coalition for Change. Um, Here comes to find out I'm telling this as I'm meeting with them. I say, hey, Reggie, you got to go here, you got to go there, you got to go here. He says, that sounds really good. How about you go do it? So I have these ties and connections in the community. And what Arizona Coalition for Change, simply put, is a 501c nonpartisan group. And that's something where we take pride in by educate, engage, and empower. We take care of issues. We address those through fair election, civic engagement. You'll also see that we're passionate about criminal justice reform. This is, the reason why we're getting on the call today, but also leadership development. So we also just in this whole situation that we kind of rolled into. We really admonished about who I was growing up. My mom and dad were ministers. growing up, we knew about love. We didn't know anything about, hey, let's talk about hate, and let's talk about your skin tone and my skin tone. It was about being right, treating others with respect, and that would be happening to you. And you work hard, and things happen for you. And my mom used to say this, and it always still remains. She used to say, "Good people, Justin will always know good people." Okay, and I've been here for a matter of time, and just meeting. I met Mike about 2 months ago, maybe even three, because we did the project downtown. But it still meant Jamar. I did security at the Hush Bar, and I worked with Miss Adelita and also Miss Lowell Conroy through civic engagement endorsements with Arizona with our Voice Side Vote. So really, all together, it all comes together. So also with Matt Kearney, I've known Matt Kearney for years, and so we just got to the point where um, we are getting tired. We are getting to the point where would you like your family member be in this position or predicament? And it just it made all of us in the Tucson community to just stand up and stand for what we believe in. And like I said, right is right, wrong is still going to be wrong, and we need to find where we're going to be able to hold people accountable for what they're doing. And like I said, it's not going to be about a color thing. It's not about a black or white thing. It's about a right thing. No, and that's what we're doing in the process. We're doing a thing called Turnout Tucson. So we're doing a couple things where we're addressing the voter registration, and also too, we only have about 25 days left with the U.S. Census. So all this all rolls in together, and we're just loving to work people who want to work with us. People of action. You see people in the community. You don't ever have to worry about people in the community because you can see them when I got a chance to go this morning to the canvassing campaign. They gave me a big bag of some great stuff I'm getting ready to go put out for them to do canvassing. But it's always people about action. Got help with Laura one time for the mask giveaway. Mike is doing a painting downtown. Miss Adelita, she's doing her and her father. They're really great people as well. So it really just for me, it's been a treat to be here. It's been it's a lot of hard work, but at the end of the day, we're going to get to the finish line. I love working with every last one of you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Justin. Laura, our next county attorney.
Hello, everyone. Greetings.
Hello.
It's really nice to be here. Adelita, thank you so much for having us here. Es un honor, and I'm glad to be here, and especially with Justin and Mike as well. I think Justin just defined the word coalition, and then right. I mean, I think if you look up the word coalition, I think Justin's face at this point should just be pictured, right? And I feel like 2020 is the worst year ever, but something about all that's happened has brought so many different parts of our community together unexpectedly. And I couldn't be luckier, happier about that because of the people I met this year and these relationships that we've started to build that I feel like have a really strong foundation and is going to help carry the criminal justice system forward. I could not have done it without these coalitions coming together, and I can't do it going forward. We're taking a 40-year system and we're trying to make some meaningful, responsible change, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to require patience and determination and just like the unwillingness to give up. And it's exactly these people that I need to stay surrounding me. So just to pick up very briefly where Mike left off, I'll just say for me, my family and close friends will tell you I definitely never intended to be a candidate for political office. That was never part of the plan. Right. And so it was such a fascinating year. And it was amazing to watch the community come find me as well and say, I'm like you. I also care this much about criminal justice reform. So I want to pick up where Mike left off and just say that I'm so glad he reached out to me. I had no idea who he was, and I was about to learn so much. We were 10 feet apart from each other on a patio, and he's too modest. He says enough is enough. It's just a group of people, but it's also a group of really hardworking people. And he had over 2 hours of questions for me that were really well studied and researched to see if I was the right criminal justice reform candidate. And then when we all got together for the drive-in, I had never met Jamar Anthony that point, and that was by design, so that he could come up on stage and just ask me all the questions that the community had brought to him about what were important, about whether we were really going to move forward in a unified way to make this a healthier county for all of us, not just some of us. And I think I passed his test that night. Thank goodness, because Mike and Jamar are now a huge part of what keeps me educated and informed and moving forward in this community. And they both give back all week long to this community, and those are the people for me. And Justin, now that Justin's back on, just watching people out in this blistering heat give out water and give out masks and get people registered to vote and getting people help to get the census done. Those are the people for me. So thank you so much for bringing us together, Adelita.
No, thank you. I think that it's a good thing to talk about because we all represent really diverse communities or a part of really diverse communities that all really talk about the same issue, which is once you get into the system, there's no way out. Once they have the criminal justice system has their hooks on you, it is so difficult to get out of. You have less opportunity for jobs and education. You can't get, Pell Grants. I mean, so there's all of these barriers that are put in front of people. And I think that we have to really figure out a way as a community to do more on the prevention end, which is why I've been a part of Teen Court, which is a diversion program for young people for 25 years, because that's the kind of stuff that we want to have programs like that before they get arrested, before they get in trouble at school, more and more of the prevention, and then really work with the county attorney's office and our law enforcement to create more and more opportunities for us to decriminalize. And so one of the questions that I have a question from Nick Puente. With criminal justice, the current county attorney has a reputation of stacking charges in attempts to avoid litigation and force people to take pleas. While I understand the office of the prosecutor has to advocate for victims in the community, what will change, especially for defendants who may not have a case but are forced to take pleas when there are stacked charges used for leverage? And why is rehabilitation not utilized more over a prison plea by the current administration? Whoever would like to do that.
Yeah. I'll jump in. I'll jump in first, but please interrupt me. Nick, thank you so much for those fantastic questions. I'll take them backwards. I am here. My version of enough is enough includes the idea that for some reason we're still treating addiction and mental illness criminally when we've got to treat it as a public health and medical crisis, which is what it actually is. So I am already working really hard, really, really long hours on trying to expand the deflection that's already going on. So we've had almost 2 years now, I think, of deflection, where officers can literally take people straight to Kodak on demand, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We need that countywide, and I'm working very, very hard to expand that. The first question, Nick, in my mind, we need to rely on the evidence before us if there is an allegation of crime. Is the evidence, of what happened last night, let's say, if a crime happened last night, is that evidence strong or weak, and just evaluating what happened last night. I think the old system relied on stacking people's priors or dividing up charges in one incident, and to create ways that created a lot of leverage to make evidence stronger perhaps than it was, right? So instead of just relying on the evidence of whatever happened last night, it was using the law to just bring an oppressive weight on a person to get them to plead. And many, there's so many different ways to do that. Stacking, consecutive. There's a lot of ways to make a case look like you're going to prison for a long, long time if you don't plead. And I think we need to break away strongly from that. And that's going to be training.
Yeah, I agree. Did either Mike or Justin want to add to that, or any issues? Because I know that I know so many people that pleaded because you looked at the kind of trial that you were going to have, and whether you were going to have the opportunity to have free representation. Those were all up in the air. So you end up pleading and staying on probation for 3 years. And then the first time you get pulled over for a traffic ticket and don't have your proof of insurance. Not that you don't have insurance, you just don't have the proof for your insurance. Now you're pulled into the system, and now you're looking at increasing fines. I mean, and there's some people that are being detained because they have fines that they just, you almost try, you're dealing with a lot of people, especially in this time period right now, where people are living paycheck to paycheck. And the thought of giving a paycheck over to a bunch of fines in the courts or eating, if those are your options, there really isn't one.
For me, Nick, so the reason why a lot of people don't even care about these topics or want to vote because they don't feel like it matters is simply due to the fact that the current administration is still instilling all of these harsh, sentencing for light crimes and vice versa. If you have money, you might be able to get out of a harsh crime, while someone who doesn't have money has to do the time or take the plea. And this is why it's so important for us to have an attorney, a county attorney in office that is dedicating their career to changing things like this. But it will not happen if we as the people feel like, oh, I'm just going to sit home on election day because my vote doesn't matter, because for 40 some years it hasn't mattered, because the current administration is still instilling all of these old fundamentals of harsh sentencing to light crimes and things like that, where people are forced to take the plea. But this is so important to vote in the right county attorney. And this is where we, the people, come in. This is why these talks are so critical for us to keep the community aware. People like me, people like you, keep us aware and educated on these type of things. The county attorney is the person that has the power to change things like this. And without our help, she or he cannot do that. In this case, it's she cannot do that. So it is up to us. If we really want to see the change, first we vote her in, then we support her after that. Because we can't just vote her in and then expect her to just do it all herself, So we want to be the community that backs our county attorney. Right now, we don't have any faith in our county attorney, or have had any faith for the past 40 some years. But this 2020 has turned it around, and now we have the power to do that. And that's why this is so important.
Yeah. And I also think that what is really good for us to talk about is that every election season, they're critical offices that come up. We have the Attorney General for the state. We have this election, we have presidential and Senate. We have legislators that are the ones that can turn back the clock on these mandatory sentences. I mean, so you have people that are in the county attorney position, but you get all this other pressure from other offices that are outside of your control. And so trying to get, what I'm really excited about is people are engaged and have been engaged for this election. My hope is that, how do we carry that and the idea that we can change things here locally, but we have certain parameters legally that Laura has to meet. And so how do we push at the legislative level? I mean, we have opportunities right now where we can change the majority at the legislature. And here in Arizona, we can change it at the federal level with Congress and with the Senate. And how do we convey to people, or how, Justin, when you're trying to recruit people to vote and get them excited, how do we connect all these pieces? Because it gets difficult, because you have one win and then it's like, okay, we did this, which is great. I mean, those are the things that we all live for, right? But then how do we bridge that to the other offices, and how do we keep people engaged? Justin, how are you? You were doing a voter outreach this morning at Tumamoc. How are you? What are you doing to try to get people excited to vote and register?
Well, I appreciate you. And before, I was going to say also too, going out to a man I really admired and I got a little props from was Mr. Richard. And I was like, Mr. Richard, I see you out there. You said, make sure you continue to resist. I said, all right, I'm going to do it for you now. But I knew you'd be a great selection, Miss Adelita. I thought that was really great. But for me, I just go back where I came from Memphis, Tennessee. And I remember just when we were growing up, we had a superintendent. His name was Mayor Willie. His name was Willie Harrington. And he actually attended my church. And we got a chance to get out there, and we were just 8 years old, and we had our little picket signs, and we were saying, vote for Mayor Harrington, vote for Mayor Harrington. And we knew he was our friend and the family. And that, believe it or not, I mean, I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and our motto is actually friendship is essential to the soul. So think about it. We're getting a chance to work with our friends, people that we really care about and that really have our best interests. So when I think about how we continuously can engage the community, I always go with the helping hand as being a friend, and actually it's educating people. I remember some time ago I went to the Park Place Mall, and this is just a prime example. And I asked the gentleman, I said, how you doing, sir? My name is Justin with Arizona Coalition for Change, and are you registered to vote? And he simply looked at me and said, hey, man, no, man, that stuff doesn't work. And I didn't take a personal offense from him. So I said, so can I ask you something? When was the last time you voted? Man, I ain't never voted. Well, here's the problem. You just got finished telling me that you never registered to vote, but it doesn't work. Man, we got an issue here. So what I did is, I said, so you can give me the experience that it works or not? I said, here's the clipboard and fill out the information, right? He filled it out. But when I think about it, we went to Reed Park, and this is a different variation, and I don't want to offend anyone, but it was an older gentleman, Caucasian male, and asked him, of course, I'm going again. Hello, my name is Justin with Arizona Coalition for Change, and are you registered to vote, sir? He goes, I appreciate what you're doing. He goes, I'm gonna tell you something, Justin. He goes, I'm 65 years old and I've been voting since I was 18. Okay, that's a huge difference. Can you see the one individual said it doesn't work and it doesn't matter, and one person said I've been voting since 18? He's letting you know that it's just gonna be hell or high water before he not make it to that poll. And a lot of it is this self-esteem that we have in our communities, the saying that we don't. When I say my vote doesn't matter, you might as well just say, put a zipper over my mouth and throw it with me, right? So a lot of it has been what we're seeing on TV. We see the images where we're being murdered in the streets. We're seeing We're getting beat. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where we would get beat. You would get beat. You would get spit on. You would get a dog on your foot or whatever's going to happen. You're going to get sprayed with a water hose, and guess what? You're going to jail too. So, kind of going through all this, it's about knowing your history, and that's the approach that I've always taken into it, because we need to know why we're voting, why America is one of the places it can happen. So it's just like a car. If you don't put any gas in there and turn the key, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to continue to be stationary. So this is where we take the reins and we get in that driver's seat. We put the gas in the car. We buckle up because we know the ride is going to be bumpy. And then we say, hey, listen, before we go on this ride, let me go pick up Mike. Let me go pick up Miss Adelita. Let me pick up Laura. And let's ride this bad boy to the White House, right? And we're doing it for 20. So, so I look at it with an approach, and it's just saying that, hey, listen, along this journey that we all have to face, we know it's a marathon, right? Nipsey Hussle said it best, be a marathon, and we got to make sure that we do it in love, we do it out of understanding, and we do it. We want to make sure that people are being empowered, where they know this is coming from a good place, and then the education happens, and then the people will show up, and the polls will be lit.
Yeah. Laura, did you have something you wanted to add?
I would love to. Justin is like literally putting his words to action every day and getting people registered to vote, right? I mean, he is like doing the hard work for so many of us. I think what we all need to be doing is we need to recognize that sometimes change is very painfully slow. But just a month ago, even during a pandemic, we had historic voter turnout. My memory is that 4 years ago, the primary 4 years ago, about 80,000 people voted. This was about 144,000 people voting. And there are many experts, and there are many, including myself, who thought that my platform might be a long shot. And 144,000 people weighed in on that and literally got the change that they wanted to see. They chose the platform that they wanted. This is not impossible. Now we just have to keep these people engaged in voting. But I mean, it happened in the middle of a pandemic. 144,000 people. That's the kind of excitement we need to be sharing with everyone.
Oh yeah.
Right. And how do we keep people engaged? Because sometimes you'll see like really high turnouts for presidential, and then 2 years later, people don't show up. And then that's where we have the presidential election this November, on November 4th. And then 2 years from now, we have the governor's race here in Arizona. And how different might Arizona look with what's going on in our pandemic, what's going on with so many things, but let's just say the health of our state. Things would be very different if we had a different governor. I mean, that's a fact. And whether you like the position or not, whether you think that our governor's been doing a good job or not, things would be very different with different representation. And so I think the challenge continues to be, how do we get people involved? Because my dad registered to vote when he was 18. It was always something that he did because his dad couldn't vote, and he felt like I'm gonna make sure I vote for the people who can't. And so it's always been like, one of those things where you graduate from high school and you register to vote, and then you vote every election, doesn't matter what it's for. But the other issue is, and what might make Laura's job difficult, is the judges. I mean, there's a lot of people on that ballot. I mean, there's a lot of people that are a part of this criminal justice system. And how do we push the reform? And so aside from, I think Laura really highlighted one of the things that I thought was really great about this election is the turnout. And that was just so exciting. And it was really great. So that was, for me, one of those things where like, what was like a motivating experience to get you fired up for the general? What is something that happened in recent memory for you? The election night, the primary night was great. But what is going to take you to the next level? Because I know, Mike, you had ideas about this drive-in rally. It was like the first one in the nation. And people, did you see Biden and Harris? And I'm like, they have a drive-in.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Woo!
Taken off and continuing to do. That was really exciting. But what are some things that we can continue to do to get young people excited? And we also have a question that I'll ask right after you guys can weigh in on that.
Before the question, I just want to say, I think you guys are doing an amazing job with just keeping people engaged, and this is the first step, right? So you guys you're doing an amazing job at taking the first steps, and I am a testimony to it. I am just a dude from the community, that's all I am. But I reached out, and you know what? I reached out to Jonathan Mosier, and I invited him to the drive-in rally, and I got no reply. So it's just that kind of interaction between the community and those who are in office type deal that that leads you to think oh, there's no hope. They don't really care about us or how we feel. So the interaction and keeping us engaged is far and in between. But when you have someone like Laura Conover who will reply to you, who will do a one-on-one interview, who will come to the drive-in rally, who will take answers from the community, from other organizations. I'm talking about they were chopping her head off up there on stage. Even Jamar Anthony came the first time hostile. He was like passionate. I wouldn't say hostile, but he was very passionate in his way. And looking her dead in the eye, like, you have to convince me. And she did. And when he walked off that stage, me and him had a conversation. He said, "Oh, she gets my vote." And it's
right.
It's,
no, I love that he said that. He's like, convince me. I think he said that on the stage.
He
to all of us. Yeah. He did
Yes.
say that.
And so just this little conversation, Plática, we're having right now is keeping us. I am a testimony, guys. Everybody watching. I was just a dude who was passionate about criminal justice and holding police accountable, and just enough is enough here in our city. And I reached out. First, I reached out to the chief of police. I reached out to the mayor, and then I reached out to Laura Conover. All three of those people replied to me, had a meeting with me. I went to City Hall. I sat down with the mayor, with the chief of police. We had conversations. And that is how you keep the community engaged, because they see me, someone they can relate to, someone who just reached out, to see what the communication barrier is between us and politicians and politics and the community, the streets, whatever you want to call it. They opened up the lines of communication, and look at, here I am on a call just addressing the community, and we're talking about things that matter, criminal justice reform, all of this that actually matters. And that's how you keep them engaged. They see the results. They see it. I'm a living testimony of it.
But I also think that you also keep us accountable. So the people that you elect, you keep them accountable, because absolutely. if I ever vote, I mean, I'm on the TUSD board. If I ever vote for something that people who supported me are not in favor of, I will have my phone blowing up in minutes, texting, everything, because that's where you remind people, like, I elected you to do this, and you're not doing that. And that, I don't know, unfortunately, we don't do that enough with people that in elected office.
I know Laura knows me. Jamar Anthony and I, we will be on her texting, email, Facebook. We will be on her saying, "Hey, what's going on here? Remember that conversation we had?"
But I think that same level should be to everyone in elected office, whether you help them get there or not.
We did it with the mayor too, because we, promises were being promised, and things weren't happening, and or as fast as we wanted it to,
Right.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we have to, give and take every now and then, but we still reached out. We still said, hey, we're still here.
Yeah.
Pressure. We got the foot on the neck. We're here.
We're here. So
Not going
I cannot believe that we only have 15 minutes left. That went really fast. So while we are on the subject of keeping people engaged, can I just have each of you talk about what do you think, how do we involve people that might be interested in connecting with all of us? So I'll go to you first, Laura.
I'm really grateful to just be live with you guys right now because we're taking questions from the public. I think that for me in my particular office, one of the foundational cores of criminal justice reform is transparency. And I'm going to be working really, really hard on that. It's going to take a lot of work to literally create the infrastructure, to create a website that's accessible to the public, that is uploading data so that the public can review what's actually happening. Eventually, I'd really like to get to a point where I've got a Friday afternoon memo that just goes out to the public every single week saying, this is the week we had, because I want this to be a service-oriented office that serves the community, that protects the community, and is accessible to everyone, so that anyone can seek help or make a report, and transparency is going to be the key to that. So I'm hoping that the community feels more and more like an active part of the office going forward. And until then, I just want to be as active as I can, pushing to November. I want to see that. I want to see another historic voter turnout for sure.
We do too. Justin?
Well, I think the biggest. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, the biggest thing about being able to keep up with everyone, because I know we're all busy. I'm actually doing a movement called Turnout Tucson. So Arizona Coalition for Change, Our Voice, Our Vote. Our biggest thing is we when I did the March on Washington, we got a lot of people they were like, Justin, man, you all the way out there in Washington, you're doing it. You did the visual with Mike and with we're out here, and you're out there. You're talking about get off my neck. You're out there representing with George Floyd, and you're doing it. You're making it. So we came up and with this idea for Turnout Tucson, and the whole ideal is every week we would like to have some kind of civic engagement for the community to be involved with. So for this week, every Tuesday in September, we're going to do a thing called Turnout Tucson. So for the first one, we're going to have the open house, and that's going to be from 6 to 7. And that's going to be where we get a chance to talk about volunteer opportunities. On the 11th, we're going to have an event called 85712, where we're going to be talking about the effects of COVID-19 here in the community. Also, want to give a point in respect to Dr. Colette Sims. She was the actual teacher and professor at the University of Arizona, and she passed through the COVID-19. So we would like to talk about her briefly during the event. On the 15th, we're going to do a voter suppression screening. It may work out, Mike. We have to do with the voter suppression down to drive-in. We don't know yet. But we already have it set up where we're going to do it on a virtual for the voter suppression event. And then on the 22nd, it's called National Voter Registration Day. And we're doing it in collaboration through One Arizona, where we're getting a chance to it's going to be a big output for everybody to get registered to vote. And then on the 29th of this month, September 29th, we're going to have a census day party. So that's where everybody's going to come in. We're just going to get everybody motivated because, as you know, the 29th is one day before it ends for self-responses on the 30th. So as everything else, I'm going to be posting it to the groups, and the Democrats, the young Dems, they say they're going to put out any information that we have coming your way. And the other thing is just actively involving people. I mean, it's nothing in me to get a message and respond to it, tag me in it, or just pick up the phone or text me. And that's the way that we're going to go and approach about it. And also just keeping updates for our social media outlets. We have the Instagram, Facebook, and just if you see me out on the street, I mean, I'm not hard to miss. I'm 6'7".
You're really not. I did not realize when Justin came, we went out and took a picture. I'm like, I knew you were tall, but I just had no idea how short I would feel. Like, I'm like pushing on 5'4". Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, and that's how we do it. And like I said, we work with Pastor Amos Lewis. He's been great. Dr. Holt as well with IMA. They post out, they send out the information through the monthly associations, the NAACP. I can't forget about Miss Doris and Miss Meeks and Mr. Andreas Portabella and all these just great leaders that are emerging out of the community. We just want to work with those who want to work with us and who are inspired to change.
Thank you. Thank you. Mike, if people want to get involved.
I'm thinking, speaking of keeping everyone engaged, we should answer some of these questions because this is a way to keep people engaged. And we have about 10 minutes left.
I know.
I mean, that's the perfect way.
I know. I just wanted to see if you, so one of the questions from Kurt was, should we organize social justice movement with the environmental justice movement together, since both of them affect the same group fighting for justice, which tends to be more people of color and people in poverty?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the only way to answer this is absolutely. And they should both coexist with each other. I mean, they should coexist with a lot of other movements, like education movement, the industrial movement, just all the movements should all coexist with each other. The big coalition, Justin.
Be a big coalition.
That's what it's all about. That's what it is all about. Absolutely. And what's crazy is I learned a few things interviewing Laura Conover, and I had no idea that the county attorney has something to do with the environment,
right?
The justice movement. And that is crazy because I just had no idea. And she educated me on that. And if I didn't take the time out to ask her certain questions, I'd have never knew.
But no,
the county attorney has a say in the environment and things, that the laws and all that stuff that goes on with, keeping the environment safe. So absolutely. Social justice movement, environment coexist. They have to.
I agree. I actually, speaking of how many ways people are reaching, I just got a text question for Laura, which read, did you have an opportunity to read the memorandum from the county administrator on community bail bond program being considered?
Yes, I have read it. And let me back up just a step though, because I want to say with the environment, Mike, you're absolutely right. Under our unusual setup, there's this huge, important, critical civil division. The environment is a critical aspect that goes on in the county attorney's office, and it's that work with the Pima County Board of Supervisors where Adelita is running for that position. So it's those, one of the races we really all need to be paying attention to now is the Board of Supervisors going forward. There's some really critical races in November.
Absolutely.
Yes, to answer, so I want to say, yes, I have read the memo on the idea of a community bond.
And what are your thoughts?
And so that has to do with cash bail. Just to bring everybody up to speed, it has to do with cash bail. There is already a very active, vibrant bail community bond project already out there that's very active and does beautiful things. And so I want to acknowledge that already exists. I want to say that I'm glad people put 2 years into trying to create a community bond system, because this system still relies on cash bail. What I want to say is that I made a very public commitment, locally and nationally, to do everything humanly possible to bring an end to cash bail. The test is so the question, I want the question to be whether we even need a community bond later at all, because people should be held in jail if they are an ongoing threat to the community, and that's pretty much it. That's it. If you qualify for a bond, I don't know why we're holding you. Get cash out. Get cash out. We have brilliant experts on how to create safe conditions where people are out with their family and they're working and they're taking care of their case. out in the community where they should be. The jail should not be a warehouse to keep people. I really am very, very committed to ending cash bail.
Yeah, thank you. No, I remember that too. I just thought, like, speaking of, they're coming on my Facebook Messenger, people are asking all kinds of questions. So I'm very appreciative. Thank you, Kathy Dong, for really focusing. And I'm glad that actually I ended up answering Kurt's question without even knowing it, which is how do we get in touch with Mike and Justin? So I think both of you, did you want to, I can include, or you can also add to your comments, any Facebook or way that people can communicate with you. You can also just tell me and I'll make sure to add it onto the comments.
You also can reach out to me through Justin at azc4c.org. That stands for Arizona Coalition for Change. And also, too, we're at 4500 East Speedway, Suite 18 here in Tucson, Arizona, right there between Columbus and Swan. So, I mean, the offices, I mean, we're still observing the social distancing and whatnot. But when things do get a little bit more to where people can come by, we're more than welcome to have people come by. It's an open space for people in the community, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Mike, did you want to add anything?
Oh yeah, I mean the lines of communications open with all four of us. Facebook, you know, you can reach me on my personal page or Enough is Enough, Instagram, wherever you have social media, you can find me. You can find us, and we're always open. The line of communications is open. I'm taking after Laura Conover. I'm taking after our police chief. I'm taking after our mayor, after Adelita. You know, after Justin, you guys reach out to us. We will reply. We will open the lines of communication, and only because together we will be able to make this change. We'll be able to make it happen, and we can't do it without each other. So it's a must. It's a must.
Thank you. Laura, did you have anything you wanted to add of how people can reach out to you directly?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So lauraconover.com is still totally alive and has all of my contact information. Conover for County Attorney is the Facebook page. My Twitter, I love Twitter. It's Conover 17L, something weird like that, Conover 17L, which proves that I never plan to run for office, right? Because that's a ridiculous Twitter handle. But I'm pretty active on Twitter. That's where all my criminal justice people are. Yeah, so please contact me through any of those ways. And people are, it's a flood of I'm trying to keep up.
Thank you all so much. I want to thank you, Laura. I know how busy you are, and you have family and a lot of obligations, so I really appreciate it. Mike, I know that you're literally on site doing things, and I can see where you are.
I took a pause for the cause.
I do. I so appreciate it. And Justin, you jumped in right away with your willingness to help. Very short, very short heads up. So I want to thank you all so much for taking this opportunity. I do want to remind us that we have a couple of really important, crucial days. The last day to register to vote is October 5th. And so, and if you would like to go ahead and vote in this election, please reach out. There's a lot of organizations trying to do that. Voter ballots are going to be mailed on October 7th, right around the corner. And so we only have election day, November 3rd, is 58 days away. I cannot believe it. And so, and ballots are going to be mailed 31 days, and voter registration on October 5th is 29 days away. So everything's going to happen very, very quickly. It is safe and secure to vote by mail. So if you have not registered to get your ballot at the mail, you can definitely do that and registered Pebble. And then just for some campaign announcements here, we continue to have a no contact lit drop. That was what Justin was talking about a little bit ago. We'll have another one on Saturday, September 12th from 8 to 12 noon, but you can come anytime during the week. I will be here on Labor Day. I feel it's important if you're going to have the opportunity to take a breath and in appreciation of all of the people that have fought so much to ensure that we have rights and safeguards at our offices and workplaces, that we're here and you can go ahead and get the word out of these wonderful candidates that we're supporting. There's home banking from home, and you can volunteer for any of the organizations that we've been talking about today. So I want to thank you all again so much for your time. We have reached an hour. I can't believe how fast that went. So thank you all. I know that we'll be in touch. Laura, I have a little gift for you here from one of your volunteers that left it. So we have to make sure to connect at some point here. And thank you.
Thank you for doing this. And thank you, Elvira. Thank you, Elvira, for making this happen.
Yep, she's great. And if anyone else has any ideas on other topics that we can be talking about here at the Plática, please, and register to vote, tell a friend, make sure people are staying engaged and involved, and stay safe. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
See you all.
Thank you so much.
Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you, Justin, Laura. Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.